I begin with the first one as to how we arrived at unitarism. You recall that the coup of January 15, 1966, the people that mounted that attack did not get to government house, Nzogu and his confederates. It turned out that the most senior officer had to take charge and try to stabilize a country that the federal government had been decapitated and two regional governments, Now, what Ironsi did by decree number 34, the one they call unification decree, was merely to set up some kind of administration and seeing what had happened between 1962 and 1966 that became the coup. It was the regions competing in some way that broke down everything. Therefore, the task for stabilization was in bringing about, since soldiers are stepped in, it must be something in which what the soldiers have, which is some hierarchy and some better order than what politicians will have. Well, that was the purpose, a temporary arrangement to stabilize things before we proceed. Ironsi did not touch these 4 regions. That was where there were 4 governors appointed over the regions. The assets of the regions remained their assets. It was just a temporary arrangement of how to provide any kind of governance. You remember the prime minister was dead, the premier of northern region was dead, premier of western region was dead. The one of the east, it turned out that the president of Malta was visiting on the day of the coup. The plotters didn't know that the foreign president would be in the company of Emma Opara. So the people that went to deal with that part found themselves in that situation. Check out whether Macarius, the president of Malta, check out whether he was not in Enugu on the day of the coup. That was what happened in Enugu. The one of what else? All these falsehoods were building upon. We know the truth, but we choose to. The author of Nebe, the people who were staging the coup, had counted on the armory in Abeokuta as where they will take the weapons with which they will, deal with the Lagos end of the matter. The Colonel Ato Nebe, who was the commander of that unit where those arms were, refused to release the keys to the armory, and they killed him. Yet it was an Igbo. Ojukwu in Kano was the one who was ready to be taken on by Nzogba and his people from Kaduna. At the end of the day, the coup, it was Ojukwu that frustrated the coup. Ironsi became head only because he was the most senior. And the regions remained the regions, the 4 regions with their governors, with their assets. It was only on the eve of the declaration of why the killings the pogroms had carried on, and it came to where Ojukwu was compelled. And I use the word compelled because that was what his colleagues, who were, including Achuzie, those who were his mates in the army, said, look, you seem to want to preserve this unworkable union by all means. If you don't draw a line, these people are going to chase us into this space. It was practically under gunpoint that he had to agree with them after trying out all kinds of things for how to stabilize the situation. Now, it was because that decision had been taken that the Eastern region will pull away from the Union, that on the 27th of May, 1967, the federal government, guided by Britain, and the reports from Williams Commission, all of those people who wanted one thing or the other from the regions of the time, because they were supposed to have been given their autonomy, like Midwestern state got the autonomy from a Western region of the time. On the 27th of May in 1967, Gowon then announced the creation of 12 states that broke the regions fractured the regions. That was the day the Union moved from being a federal state to a unitary state, because the assets of those regions were also progressively taken over by the federal government in the name of finding money to manage the situation as it were. So if we